An amazing view, right? Well, I'm here to introduce my new video. My new video is about my new book. I am busy writing a new book about the Daoland healthcare project and about the research that I'm doing. So this book, if I'm quick enough, will be published or at least be available before Christmas, so you can still order it for your Christmas time, and you will find the link towards more details as soon as it is available somewhere in my channel. So become a member and join. Anyway, what I'm going to talk about is about healthcare. We're going to talk about the state of healthcare and your dependencies. So let's discuss a few topics in here, and you will see me sitting on a desk though, because I will need the text of the chapter to discuss the content. If you are a frequent visitor of my channel, you know of course that I am pretty much passionate about my work and about my studies, and I like to talk about it a lot, and that's also why I make my channels and why I bother my students very often with all my different kind of ideas. And of course I'm always trying to also motivate you to do more about your life, and there are several reasons for it. One of them is the health industry itself, and I want to talk with you about it in the context of the health industry as a polluting factor and how that actually relates to our lives as a whole and how it affects us. And I'm not going to talk about the numbers, because the numbers are terrible. Hospitals are, and doctors in general, they are using a lot of throwaway stuff, and they use a lot of chemicals, and they use a lot of radioactive materials. So there's a lot of stuff going on in hospitals and medical establishment in general, which we should not be happy about. But I'm not talking about the numbers now. I have done other posts about these numbers, and if you dig into my channel, you will find these posts quite easily. And they are already from some time ago though. But let me first make clear also in that sense that the commercial health services, according to my opinion, do not necessarily have the best in mind for us. I do not want to say that they're not helpful in many cases. There are aspects of modern healthcare and medicine which are definitely very good, but we have to take some other things in consideration. And it doesn't matter if it is your hospital, your home physician, or whether it's your holistic healer. All of them, they have a particular kind of incentive to maybe not think just about your well-being, but also about their wallet. And I do know there are always, in every category, there are people who have good in mind, but I remind myself always about a colleague who wanted me to come teach at their school, and they said like, yeah, you will earn something like 2,000 euros per day, and look at my big car that I can afford myself with my classes, and I charge my clients this and this much. And I was like, okay, this is the opposite of what Chinese medicine intended to do. When studying Chinese medicine, you're supposed to make an oath about what you can and what you cannot do in your life. And one of the things is that you cannot enrich yourself through medicine. This is like a general rule. Just like with herbal medicine, if you haven't taken the medicine yourself, you cannot give it to your clients, because you have to understand what it does to you. When you are healthy, it will do other things to you than to your client, but you have to know how poisonous a herb is, because herbal medicine basically starts with the statement that everything you ingest is basically a poison. So whatever you eat, whatever you drink, whatever medication you take, you're always going to have also a damage from it. So this is something that is essential to understand. So their raison d'etre, their reason for their existence for any kind of medical person, and I have to count myself to that also because I belong to that category, but I do try to take into account as much as possible the financial situation of my clients. So I do a lot of free treatments, and I also give a lot of discounts to make sure that the poor people, which unfortunately there are still a lot, they can have healthcare. And the rich people, they don't pay too much extra, they don't pay anything extra. So I take that from my own wallet. And that is basically what Chinese medicine is demanding in the oaths of your moral integrity as a medicine practitioner. If you have taken a Western oath, of course that is not there. And although in medical ethics they talk about that, but In reality, it's not. But it means that because of that financial thing, people tend to take things to prevent that they have to go to the doctor. And these very often are also a part of the additional pollution being generated through healthcare. I have to also add to that, I do not think anybody who works in medicine, whether it's alternative or regular, definitely has a bad will. I do think everybody is intending to do good with that. I have met people, though, that said that they did it for more dark reasons, but I don't think that's the rule, that is the exception. And that's a general thing with people. In general, you can say when you talk to people, everybody has the best intentions. There are not necessarily believing in their best intentions, but they have them. And I think for most people, they try to avoid problems, so they will try to follow up on their best intentions also. So this is already very important. And it means that I already point out that the pollution in healthcare is not only in the technical parts of it, but it is also in the moral parts of it. And therefore, I have to choose my words very carefully, because I don't want to upset you if you are a therapist and you're watching this and you think, he talks about me. Only you can judge yourself. So I'm not judging you on your personal merits. I am only telling you that in general, healthcare, including holistic teachers, they do have a financial benefit from it. It's the same like the president of a country. When they earn income, Plato already mentioned that it is not going to be good for the country if the emperor or the king or the president is having the right to earn money, or his family. So Plato suggested that anybody with a particular kind of position should be dissociated from the benefits from that position. So when you're a doctor, of course, people will be thankful for you. But I always remind myself on the hospitals in China where it says in a note, please don't give gifts. Yes, so you're not allowed to show your thanks to the doctor. The doctors have to do things because they do things. And this is just their job, and they get paid for it. Not much in China compared to here, but yeah, there is. There's another aspect of modern medicine which I think is a complication, and this has to do with the fact that modern medicine is talking from a perspective of authority. This authority is legal. We can talk about it another time. But it is also morally, the medical system has been training people in the last, say, 100 years to trust in the judgment of the doctor. So there are, like in the past, the priest in your church community, the doctor also, especially with older people, you see that they have sort of absolute authority, because people are systematically being kept a little bit in the dark about the nature of their body. A lot is being put behind technical language. Because of the technical language, it is difficult to comprehend what they're actually saying to you. So for many people who did not have anything in the right kind of mental training or the right kind of intellectual training or whatever kind of things, it comes in one ear and it goes out the other ear. Then they only ask, will it be good for me? And if the doctor says yes, of course, or we think so, then that is satisfying. A lot of people, they get as a result of that half ambiguous answer, because there are certain kind of risks. You are being told of the risks and so forth and so forth. But even though you're being told about the risks, you are in a need. So you need to hang on to something, and people usually take a lot of hope from it. And you're not necessarily clear on what are the things that you can do yourself. My work, especially in the research project that I'm now doing, is focused on developing a good understanding of what you can do yourself to prevent the most of it. Because a lot of things that we are facing in our health, we can prevent by ourselves. The judgment of the doctor then in that sense can be very damaging. I had a client in the past, and I'm talking more extensively about it in my book, but I had a client in the past, and she came to me with symptoms, and I gave her a diagnosis on the basis of Chinese medicine. I gave her exercise and so on. But then she improved with her symptoms. The symptoms disappeared. She was doing well for about a year, 1.5 years. Then she went on a holiday with her girlfriend, and at the moment when she was on her holiday, she decided to go take a holiday also from her exercises. And in relatively fast speed, her symptoms recurred because of drinking wine, eating greasy food, probably not taking good care of herself. And she had to go to the hospital because she had so much pain. Then they told her diagnosis on the basis of Western medicine. When she came back, she became very angry with me because I hadn't told her she had that problem. And I was like, but did you make progress in the meantime? Yes, I did. But I have this disease that will never finish and it will kill me. And that means you should have told me that. I said, well, maybe that would have never happened if you would have kept on to your exercises. Because you were doing very well, you had no symptoms, the disease was not progressing but was regressing. So as a result of that, you could live a long, healthy life without it. You can still do that if you continue your practice. But she was so angry about that effect that the moral judgment by the doctor of the disease that she had and the problems that it would give, she had given up on her life in that sense. And then that is something that I think is a dark side of Western medicine, and this is also a form of pollution. You have to understand that. So we already mentioned two different kinds of pollutions right now. So the unavoidability of the diagnosis is one, the financial charge is one. If you have a health insurance, in many countries is going to be very much, if you have no disease, no problem. But then you've spent that for nothing, or if you do have a disease, they will find ways to limit your choices one way or the other. And for people who have very serious disease because of communal insurances, of course, they can be helped, and that is really great. So in itself, it is a good system, but the pricing is because of competitive means that they said, like, okay, if you compete companies against each other, you get lower prices, but in many countries that is not the case. In fact, prices only became higher and higher. There are two financial parts, the financial benefits from the medical workers, the insurance companies, and of course there's the chemical factories and the benefits that they have and so on. So there's a lot involved in that. There's an article written by John Duffy and Richard Hines. It's called Crisis Pricing. Because my research, as you know, is about crisis management, what you need to know to prevent that you get into medical problems or health problems, what you have realized in yourself already before you get into a situation where you are touched by a disaster, by a war, or you become a refugee or something like this. And they wrote, emergencies happen. By definition, they are exceptional, they create uncertainty, they cause disruption, and they often lead to massive adjustments and changes within society. In law too, crisis and emergency pose deep challenges and often demand significant adjustment. Perhaps because this young century has already seen its share of crises, a coordinated terrorist attack, a great recession, a global pandemic, and a large ground war in Europe, an exceptionally large literature has developed around the question whether and to what extent crisis should lead the law to sacrifice at least suspend rules applicable in ordinary times. What they point out in their article basically is the price tag on crisis, and the social price and the financial price very often is very high, and you can see that in the way how people respond on taking care of refugees from other countries, that they're not very happy in taking care of refugees from other countries because it will tax their system, it will tax their economy. And as long as people are more or less of the same color, that will probably okay, but if they are from a different culture, you see that a lot of resistance comes up because people are only altruistic to a particular kind of degree. And I want to talk about that another writer. In this article, this is from the European Union, by the way, website, that they see, what they see is that the economic literature on market crisis parallels literature on law times of crisis to an extraordinary degree. They really show that, like in the legal literature, the economy environment also has rights. And they explain there is a business as usual moniker that is at best apt in describing the market libertarian position. And it means that when healthcare markets, they make a lot of money, they're very happy. But at the moment when they have a lot of expenses, they will rely on the government to pay for these expenses. If the government collapses, then at that moment there is no payout, and that means that they have to shut their doors, or they want to shut their doors, and they want to reduce the help that they can give for the simple reason that they don't want to carry the burden of it. So they don't feel like a social responsibility to also provide healthcare in case there is no money. The healthcare is based on a profit, and when the profit is not there, they don't want to allow their companies to work for that. So they want to have a buyout. Basically, like many people, they do not like socialist kind of government nowadays. You hear that in many countries, because they don't want to pay for other people's expenses. But if they are in problems themselves, the first thing they do is they go to the government and say, can you please buy me out? And for people, that very often doesn't work. When I was in problem, my government did not help me. But for companies, they usually do that. And because I am a small company, they said, well, but your debts are private, even though it was problems that were created for my clinic by my landlord. And in spite of that, they said, oh, well, that's your business risk. So you take a risk when you start a business. Of course, you don't take a risk that your landlord is going to try to cheat on you. He was a millionaire, I was not. So he could easily win also in front of the legal system, because he was a lawyer himself and I don't. The fact that the whole system is based on business as usual means that the economy of the healthcare industry is based on the fact that the system as it is just continues as it is. When there is anything extraordinary happening through which you get a big shock, it doesn't really work like that. And then you saw, for instance, with the COVID problem, that because of bad messaging, because of people trying to con the government, and so forth, a lot of money moved from one place to another place, and a lot of finger pointing was taking place towards people who had nothing to do with the problem, and that caused also, of course, political disruption and all kind of other things. It's all very complicated, and it is nowadays, with the overflow of information that we get on the internet, it's difficult to understand who has done what and why, and it takes many years to work out. The COVID situation was, of course, terrible, but it wasn't as terrible as it could have been. So it could have been way more bad without vaccines. And that doesn't mean that the vaccines were all safe or anything like that, but without them, the situation would have been like in the United States. That was terrible. Many people died there. In China, we don't know how many people died there, but also there, it is generally considered that more people died as a result of COVID because of not having a suitable vaccine than people know. The government keeps insisting that their vaccine is great, was good. So I don't know. I cannot count all these people, but that's an important part to realize. When we look at other situations in refugee camps and stuff like this, people go into these refugee camps because they're refugees and they're being left there with some form of help. I know from my friends in the Rohingya camp that I'm now working with, that they have a limited amount of food supply, they have no medication, they have no education, they have no many chances to develop. Within the plans that we have, we try to help them to build a community in which they can provide many of these things, that they also can provide their own livelihood by maybe doing vertical farming or something anyway, through which they can improve the quality of their life. And that should be possible, but I first have to have the funds to go there and to discuss the situation that they are in to bigger detail. So I hope that one of you or many of you will eventually end up supporting this program, because from this that will come. When I was in Bosnia after the war there, the war with the separation of Yugoslavia and the different states, and I saw the people with arms shot off, legs shot off, bandages everywhere, bullet holes in all the houses, burned out cars, broken roads, and so on. That was, of course, a terrible situation to see, and then you see that these people, they were all going to take a long time to recover from that, the trauma of this. And also in Nepal, when I was there in refugee camps a long time ago, when I was like 24 or something like this, the people were living there just in tents, small triangle tents with an opening side towards the road, so that the dust from the cars passing by there would automatically get into the tent. So they were the whole day busy trying to clean their tent, having masks in front of their face to avoid the dust. And you see there these women with little children living in a tent like that. It was, of course, this is the fate that refugees have. It's not a pleasure trip. It's not a holiday when you become a refugee. And if you also don't have access to proper healthcare, then at that moment, of course, it's even worse. I had been told by somebody that such refugee camps still exist in Nepal. So a lot of Tibetan refugees, they are there already for decades now. The UNHRC, United Nations Human Rights Council, shows on their information page that refugees are people forced to flee their own country to seek safety in another country. They are unable to return in their own country because of feared persecution as a result of who they are, what they believe in or say, or because of armed conflict, violence, serious public disorder. So nowadays, of course, climate disaster is more and more often the reason also to flee home. And that might happen to 87 million people in Europe too. In the United States, I don't know the exact numbers, but there are many there too. As you can see, every storm there, people become homeless. In general, societies in the West, they have taken some support towards the buildings and so on in case disaster happens, but still a lot of problematic things can happen. And if in Europe still 87 million people can lose their life because of natural disaster, of which 55% is in Northwest Europe and Italy together. So you should definitely look into that or buy my book when it comes out to keep track of these kind of numbers. But anyway, for refugees, this page says also many have been forced to flee with nothing more or a little more than their clothing. That means that they have no homes, no possessions, no passports, no ID, and so forth and so forth. That can happen to anybody. This is a problem. So in 2024, there were 42.7 million refugees globally. And there are, of course, many more billion people in the world. And if everybody would be able to put something aside, the whole refugee problem would never have existed. If there were not a few billionaires who have so much money that they could provide the whole world for years and years and years with ample of food and medicine and so on, and they would actually also do that, then that problem would never have existed. So the problem is there because of commerce. And that commerce is extending in healthcare, that is extending in social activities, that's extending in social media and all kind of other things that are being kept alive for the sake of profit. These things are fun to have, right? It's nice to have a new phone or anything like that. It's nice to be able to buy glasses for a lot of money, and that makes look very fashionable. But the whole point actually is that we take care of each other. And I have to refer here to one of my favorite writers, Mikhail Bakunin, a Russian aristocratic person who gave up his aristocratic position to be able to fight for poor people. And this is what is very important. He died poor, of course, as a result of that. But he kept writing about his political ideas and about the ideal that everybody would take care of each other. And this is a altruist idea. For instance, you all know about the Palestinian refugees and the bombing of the Palestinian area by the Israelis and the results of what that actually might have for the Palestinian community as a whole. The Palestinians are one of the oldest, they are part of the oldest population in that area, and they are being reasoned away, but they are a very important part of the local area, and they are actually part of the same groups that the Jewish people themselves also are part of. They're all Semites, and as a result of that, these people, they don't have a country, they don't have their own government anymore, they are preyed on by corrupt politicians within their own ranks, and religious leaders maybe also, and also by corrupt people in Israel and in America and other countries that are all part of this system. So as a refugee, you get in between the grinding mill of bigger powers than you. And that is where the problem is. And this is where in healthcare you are also. So when you become sick, you actually are a refugee. You are coming into a system that is going to grind, and it's going to live at your expenses. It's going to live upon you. So healthcare, doctors, therapists, counselors, these are all sort of a parasitic experience, because the point is not to resolve the problem, but to make sure that you can keep on giving to the system. And it doesn't mean that there is no good intentions behind it, because people who work there also don't have much choice. They live in there, they work from that, they have their own life, and they are being told to just leave the work at work and then go home and do their own thing. Eventually also many of them ending in the same situation as you are yourself when you are sick. Yeah, so it is not something that they have intended, of course, at all. Nobody intends to become sick, although when you are working in healthcare, you do understand that whatever happens to these people also might eventually happen to you. The numbers, by the way, that I mentioned about the 87 million Europeans that are exposed to natural hazards, this is done by the Joint Research Centrum of the European Union Science Hub at the European Council pages. So it's definitely worth the trouble of sorting that out. If you're interested in these kind of things, you are going to be shocked by it. There is a paper mentioned in there which I discuss in my book, and you can see the numbers there also and being explained also at the same time. There was a writer, I'm not sure where his name is Ging Keung Ma, and he wrote in 2017 an article named The Development of Altruism with Special Reference to Human Relationships. And what he did, he said, like, well, the problem that we face in this mental and emotional pollution of things, he didn't say that explicitly, this is my addition to it, but the problem that we face is that the way how we relate to other people is stacked up in 10 stages. And he said there are basically 3 main layers that we have to face. One is our direct community, our family. We can easily care for these people, but there's already people who cannot care for that very well. Then there is the larger group, like the political group or the social group or the country or something like this. I know from Confucianism they tried to install in the Chinese people that the state is more important than the family, and they base themselves on the idea that the state is a family too. That was the way to overcome the difference between the need to take care of your own family and the larger community of the country, so that the officials would actually dedicate themselves to the state and to the emperor. And you see that the modern Communist Party, modern political parties, nationalism, right-wing, fascist, and so on, they all prey on the same kind of ideas, that you should see the family of the state as better and more important than your own family. And this is what you also see in this paper from Ging Keung Ma, is that there is a barrier between these two. So people can be trained to fit into a particular kind of group, but they cannot, that's difficult to overlap with that and dig for it. So you need very often sort of a force, but some people do that naturally. So people can be trained to appreciate the value of their state. In Daoism, we usually say that the larger community is more important than ourselves, for the simple reason that when we invest ourselves into the rebuilding and the improvement of our environment, then automatically we all become better, and as a result of that, it is easier to share and to prevent that people become hungry or poor or whatever kind of thing. So this natural altruist investment in society and in other things and other people, that is an essential part of Daoism as a whole. The research project that I am setting up is also based on the idea that when you learn particular kind of skills, you should learn them in such a way that you can help other people with it. So when you end up in a refugee camp, you're automatically a seed for a healthcare program that can develop there with people together, where the minimum of care can be taken care of by people themselves, instead of waiting until somebody gives you paracetamol or something like this, or whatever it is called in your country, because there's different names in different countries. When you look at then the third group, that is things and people that are very far away, like a country that is very far away. People do not care so much for countries that are far away. And the last part also is that for animals and so on, people do not care as much for. That is also the reason why they are able to eat meat, because meat basically means you don't really care for that animal. Don't talk about their dogs or their cats, they will not eat it, but if it is an animal that they do not have as a pet, it's easy to eat because it's far away. They only see the abstract pieces of meat on their plate, and they don't really have a comprehension of the animal as a living, breathing being. Although some people, they have got so much trauma from their family or their social group that they actually only can love animals, and then to a degree probably their pet dogs, cats and so on, they get a lot of love. Cows, they're really a little bit more scary because they're bigger, of course. Horses, you can see that there is a sort of relativism between these, but in general you can say that, okay, the further something is away from you, the less altruistic feelings you have for it. The trick is to feel equal for everything. Right? So at the moment when you think about your own health, this is not something you only want to keep to yourself. You want to make sure that you share that with other people. And that is primarily the backbone also of the research that I'm doing, because I'm trying to figure out what is the minimum that people need to maintain their health, how they maintain that, and how they share that, like for instance with their family members, their community members, and so on and so on. So that means that people who are inside that research, they will contribute a little bit, and part of it will go to helping refugees by providing education for this program in the refugee camps, but also you will get skills which normally are left for professionals, and we have packaged in such a way that it is hopefully going to be enough to learn these things on a permanent basis. That means that they can maintain their own health and that they will maintain their own health because they see that. Of course, not everybody has the morality to want to take care of themselves, but we have to have enough members over time to make sure that every part of the world can have that kind of benefit. There is a lot of poverty, and it is not about religion or philosophy. It's just about the simple idea that everybody needs a particular kind of knowledge for that. And anybody who would like to sign up for that, of course, please do, and join the program. Sign up for it in such a way. You can find the link in the commentaries. And the reason why I think it is beneficial is because we all fantasize as teenagers about what we're going to do with the future, and a lot of people, they think about, I would like to help other people. Yeah, this is something that people have, but because of family life, because of work life, we don't really have time for that. I happen to have made it my work, yes, and I have also made it my dedication through my being a Taoist to do that in the way how Taoists are seeing that as being very important. It's not something that you are allowed to brag about or should brag about, but it's just something that everybody ought to do. Like people have to go to primary school. Similarly, people should learn to take care of their own health without depending on chemicals or the gym, because the gym is not going to be there when you're a refugee, believe me. And the gym also is going to break your bones. It's going to grind away your cartilage, and it is also making you age faster for other reasons, hardening your heart muscle so that under stress you can't really deal with things, and you also slow down your body as a result of muscle development. And you need a lot of food, otherwise it can't work. That means that is very unhealthy, because you're going to prey on the world more just to look great. That's ridiculous. Anyway, I hope this article was interesting for you. If you have any remarks, even if you don't have any remarks and you want to say something, make sure you say something below in the commentaries. That is definitely helping the channel forward. It will be best if you actually sign up for the channel. If you sign up for the program, it will be better. This movie will also be on Patreon with a piece of citations from my chapter also, so you can have a read-in already for that. It will be an open article, but I would love for everybody to sponsor that, because that money also goes back into the research program. Everything basically what I do goes into the research program and taking care of things. I live in a situation where I don't have to worry about my finances. Not that I have anything, but people take care enough of me that I don't have to worry about it. And as a result of that, I can do that. And I hope that that actually will work out for everybody. because I'm getting more and more worried every day because of everything that I see happening around me. And that's not just here in the Netherlands, but globally. And I think I'm not the only one. So why not work together and try to build this up? We can't invent the wheel by ourselves. And I need a good team for people who are working together. And we need 1,000 people in this team to start.